we have a countdown to the biggest event in the markets probably this year. This is the FOMC meeting that is going to be happening tomorrow morning here Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be 11:30. Of course, that is when we find out what the rate decision is, as well as what the outlook is for the rest of the year, because the Fed is not only going to provide us what they're going to be doing with interest rates this month, but also with the updated announcing the updated summary of economic projections, which tells us how many rate cuts we are expecting for this year. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the CME watch tool very quick, because this has been very accurate. We have now seen a change here for the percentage, the probability of an ease that is coming up for this FOMC meeting. The only change I've been seeing is for the basis point change, and we're basically expecting a 25 basis point rate cut, which is, I think that's probably not bad, because I think a 50 basis points would have kind of scared the markets. But if we actually go gradually, 25, 25, and 25 for the remaining of the year, or maybe if we speed things up, I think that would at least be less shocking, right? Probably less emotional of a market reaction. According to the tool here, we're still expecting 3 rate cuts this year, as you guys can see. October 100%, December 100%. We have the amount of rate cuts just all over the place, as you guys can see. We can go down to as low as a 3.25 to 3.5 federal funds rate here. So that is going to be very interesting for the rest of the year. It looks like we're expecting the market's expecting a 3 rate cuts for this year. So that's going to be up from the 2 rate cuts that was projected in the June SEP. So let's see if we get that, right? I think if we get 2, the markets might not like that. So that is the risk that I'm going to be paying attention to. And I will be doing a recap with that with you guys after the meeting. Let's go ahead and take a look into Bitcoin here, which is still the driver of this crypto market, of course. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinion on this market is still bullish. Okay, of course, these are just my opinions and not financial advice like the entirety of this video. So I'm still keeping an eye out on Bitcoin. I still have positions in Bitcoin. And we're also going to be taking a look into a few altcoins later in this video, which would include Scale Network, XYO, Verasity, which is VRA, and see what has happened in these coins, what's changed with their trading setups, price targets, right? That's also very important. Later in this video, I highly don't recommend you guys skip through, because I never trade altcoins without a clear understanding of Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin dumps, which I think there is still a chance, right? But I think there is a bigger chance that Bitcoin actually goes up from here and makes new all-time highs sooner rather than later. So we're going to be taking a look into Bitcoin. We're going to take a look into some altcoins. We're also going to be taking a look into some major economics news first and crypto news, and see how they could affect the markets. But let's go ahead and get into the news first before the charts. We're going to put our critical thinking hats on, because some of these headlines could get pretty ridiculous. Let's go ahead and go to the first piece of news here, which is by Cointelegraph. Bitcoin eyes long liquidations as gold passes 3.7K for the first time. So this is interesting, because let's see here. The key points: Bitcoin attempts to liquidate longs at the Wall Street Open with 115K in focus. I don't think there were any liquidations, as you guys can see. Let's just come to the charts here. We're still looking pretty healthy, right? No liquidations happening. But I am looking at levels underneath 115K, and I see quite a bit of support underneath 115K. So I disagree with this headline, and I will show you guys why I think that is later in this video. Markets are flipping shorts ahead of Wednesday's Federal Reserve meeting. So I'm not sure what they mean by that. Markets are flipping shorts. Are there more short sellers coming into the markets? It needs to be more specific. Okay. So I actually think there are quite a bit of bullish signals here, which includes the stock market, the S&P 500, breaking out of a huge bearish pattern I've been talking to you guys about. Why is that significant? Is because that's highly correlated with Bitcoin. Okay. And could that be a front running signal for Bitcoin? I think there is a pretty good chance of that happening. All right, gold hits fresh all-time highs above 3,700 before correcting. Now, I am not against gold. I just don't buy gold. But how I see this is that when the Fed starts lowering interest rates, there's going to be more cheap money coming into the financial markets, which jacks up asset prices, including gold. So I think this gold move is also good for even the risk on assets, because it doesn't look like we have anything black swan going on here that's making everyone flocking to gold, as clearly as we're seeing right now, because the stock market is up, crypto is up. I think that's just lagging behind the stock market. Let's go ahead and go to the next piece here, which is by News BTC. Goldbug Peter Schiff calls Bitcoin's rally overdone. I mean, I've been following Peter Schiff since the beginning of my trading journey here back in 2019, and he's always been a cynical skeptic for Bitcoin. Nothing new here, and look at what Bitcoin has been doing since 2019. I mean, look at the price of Bitcoin since 2019 and where it is at right now. So I mean, do I think his argument is? I mean, how credible is his argument right now? So let's go ahead and go to the next piece. Next piece here is by Cointelegraph. Crypto markets prepare for Fed rate cut amid governor shakeup. So, usually, like on the week, the 2 days before the Fed rate cut, the FOMC meetings, right? Because it usually happens on Wednesdays, and on the 2 days that are before that Wednesday, usually I would see very little price action. The price action is usually pretty tight, right? Just from my own personal observations. But I do feel that there is more bullish sentiment here these 2 days prior to that Fed meeting. Of course, there are going to be some risk that comes with the FOMC meeting. This one specifically is going to be about the SEP, right? If we are not if the Fed is not announcing anywhere at 3 rate cuts this meeting, that could be a risk for the markets, and the markets may not like that. So that is the risk that I am looking out for. Right now, I am not adding on any positions, especially leverage positions. If I take any profits, I will be sidelining them until I get more clarity from the Fed meeting tomorrow. All right, next piece here is by Crypto Potato. Bitcoin price analysis. Bitcoin bulls push for a rally as risk remains. Let's take a little bit of a read into this, because it could. I mean, I'm not really sure what he's talking about, but it could be an interesting read. Bitcoin continues to hover with a consolidation phase after a strong rebound from the 107K zone. While signs of bullish momentum are emerging, the next move will largely depend on whether the price can break through nearby liquidity levels or face rejection at pullback for renewed accumulation. Technical analysis. So I see a right now we are at a key moving average that is going to be the last moving average, or the last moving average that is on a higher time frame. I'm talking about the 3-day 21 SMA, currently sitting at about 116K. The next resistance, of course, will be above 120K, and for Bitcoin to break out of this bearish pattern. So that is what I'm looking for. That is going to be the next resistance. And if we actually break out of that, it's looking pretty clear for Bitcoin. And of course, the altcoins. Ethereum, Total 3, they're following Bitcoin. Total 3 is trying to break out of its all-time highs. It's like less than 3% away, right? So we have a lot of things to be looking out for. And right now it's still looking to me like it's pretty damn bullish. Okay, 3-day time frame here for Bitcoin. This is what I'm talking about. The 3-day 21 SMA at about 115.5K, trying to get a solid candle close above that moving average. We still haven't had that yet since yesterday's 3-day candle close. Now let's take a look into the daily time frame. And let me point out to you guys why I'm still saying there are still some mixed signals here for Bitcoin, which is this rising wedge pattern that we saw the stock market broke out of. Could that be a front-running signal? I think it has a pretty good chance it could be, right? Because they have very high correlation. If the correlation sticks around for this move here, I think Bitcoin could break out of this rising wedge pattern, but nothing is 100%. So also have to consider the downside risk. The downside risk is Bitcoin breaking below this rising wedge pattern, which if it breaks down by this point here, for example, price target, breakdown target, I've been talking about this, is going to be pretty steep. It is going to be about 75K. Okay. Now, mind you that rising wedges, they have a higher chance of breaking to the downside. All things considered for this move here. Okay. But if this thing breaks out to the upside, that's going to be very bullish. Let's take a look into Total 3. I've been talking about this possible Total 3 breakout here, which is basically altcoins excluding Ethereum. Okay, 1.15 trillion is going to be that resistance. It has tapped 1.16 trillion before getting a rejection. Could Total 3 actually break out of this huge pattern that has been set back in 2021? If it does, the altcoins will go crazy. Okay, it's just sooner or later, right? This is a cup and handle pattern. So let's take a look into the next. We're going to be taking a look into Scale Network first, SKL. See what has happened in SKL here. Scale Network on this weekly time frame, falling wedge pattern. It is a bullish pattern that usually breaks to the upside, and Scale Network did break to the upside here. Now, how you draw this upward trend line could make this breakout subjective, right? But I do think that this is a valid breakout because of the volume, right? The volume on this weekly candle. Just compare it with, the previous week's volume. That tells me this is a valid breakout because of that huge volume that just came in, telling me that traders see this as a breakout. And since the breakout here for the past couple of weeks, it has been just retesting that upward trend line, but still has weekly candle closes above that upper trend line. That is important because it tells me that this breakout is still valid because the price action is still closing above that upper trend line of the pattern it broke out of. Now, price target here for this breakout is going to be about 14 cents, okay? Let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if I can get some more clarity on what Scale Network could be doing. Daily time frame, I talked about this falling wedge pattern, a pattern you should definitely learn how to chart first. It's probably the easiest pattern to look for because it's basically a triangle that is tightening, and it's very simple and effective because it tells you that after an extensive downtrend on that time frame, that the price action has a higher chance of breaking to the upside, and you have seen these two falling wedges broke to the upside. And if you guys been watching my channel, you guys could have seen a lot more falling wedges that broke to the upside. Okay, now price target for this little falling wedge breakout would be about 5.1 cents here. Still valid breakout for the same reasons I talked about. It is trying to get above the daily 50 SMA, the daily 21 SMA as resistance now. Let's see if Scale Network could keep these breakouts valid. Let's go ahead and go to XYO, see what's happening with XYO Network. Weekly time frame, talked about this falling wedge pattern. Price target for this breakout here is going to be about 3.9 cents. Coco, come on. Over here. Alright, so this is going to be a price target for 3.9 cents here, right? And breakout is still valid, right? We still have the price action above the breakout point. I mean, not the breakout point, but the upper trend line of this breakout pattern. Now, I talked about on this daily time frame, falling wedge pattern. This broke to the upside, and it did. Price target here is going to be about 1.15 cents. Price targets, still valid breakouts. Now, if you are long on XYO, you want to see XYO break above this upper trend line here on this 4-hour time frame. Otherwise, it could form some type of a falling wedge pattern that could look something more like this. That's not too steep, and this is a smaller time frame. But, you know, if it doesn't break out of this upper trend line here, then that's what you could be seeing. Let's go ahead and go to Verasity, VRA, and see what's happening on this market here. Falling wedge again. Okay, weekly time frame. Price target for this breakout, which happened back on the week of August 4th. Price target would be about 1.5 cents. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if I can get a little bit more clarity. I talked about a falling wedge pattern here. I have adjusted that falling wedge pattern because it did try to break out, but the breakout was invalid. I updated this pattern. Now, price target for this adjusted falling wedge pattern, if it breaks out by this point here, for example, price target would be about 0.17, almost 0.18 cents there, Veracity, okay? Now, if Veracity could basically rebound, I mean, I'm gonna put this cup and handle pattern here on hold for now because I think it is still trying to rebound, right, with higher lows. So we're not gonna be talking about that for now. I talked about this last time, but Veracity just continue making lower lows here. So in order for rounded bottoms to be valid, I do need to start seeing higher lows and rounded bottoms. So this basically wraps up for this video for Veracity, XYO, and Scale Network. If you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins or any other coins in this market, make sure to drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis.